Shalom and welcome to the BeritHadasah. We are in Mark chapter 5, where we left off last week. So open your Bibles to Mark chapter 5 and follow me in the reading of Mark 5, verse 1. Yeshua and his son with him arrived at the other side of the lake in the Galilean territory. As soon as he disembarked, a man with an unclean spirit came out of the burial caves to meet him. He lived in the burial caves, and no one could keep him tied up, not even with a chain. He had often been chained hand and foot, but he would snap the chains and break the irons as if of his feet, and no one was strong enough to control him. Night and day he wandered among the graves and through the hills, howling and gashing himself with stones. Seeing Yeshua from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him and screamed at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Yeshua, Son of God? Ha Elohim, Ha Elyon, I implore you in God's name, don't torture me." For Yeshua had already begun saying to him, "Unclean spirit, come out of this man." Yeshua asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he answered. "There are so many of us." And he kept begging Yeshua not to send them out to the dry region. Now there was a large herd of pigs feeding near the hill, and the unclean spirits begged him, "Send us to the pigs so that we go into them." Yeshua gave them permission. They came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering around 2,000, rushed down the hillside into the lake and were drowned. The swineherds fled and told it in the town and in the surrounding country, and the people went to see what had happened. They came to Yeshua and saw the man who had the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were frightened. Those who had seen it told what had happened to the man controlled by the demon and to the pigs. And the people began begging Yeshua to leave their district. 18. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demonized begged him to be allowed to go with him, but Yeshua would not permit it. Instead, he would say to him, "Go home to your people and tell them how much Adonai in his mercy has done for you." He went off and began proclaiming in the towns of how much Yeshua had done for him, and everyone was amazed. Yeshua crossed in the boat to the other side of the lake, and a great crowd gathered around him. There came to him a synagogue official, Yair by name, who fell at his feet and pleaded desperately for him. "My little daughter is at point of death. Please come to lay your hands on her so that she will get well and live." He went with him, and a large crowd followed him, pressing all around him. Among them was a woman who had a hemorrhage of 12 years and had suffered a great deal under many physicians. She had spent her life savings, yet instead of improving, she had grown worse. She had heard about Yeshua, so she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his robe. For she said, "If I touch even his clothes, I will be healed." Instantly, the hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she had been healed from the disease. 30. At the same time, Yeshua, aware that power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" His Talmudim responded, "You see the people pressing in on you, and you still ask, who touched me?" But he kept looking around to see who had done it. The woman, frightened and trembling because she knew what had happened to her, came and fell down in front of him and told him the whole truth. "Daughter," he said to her, "your trust has healed you. Go in peace and be healed of your disgrace." While he was still speaking, people from the synagogue official's house came, saying, "Your daughter has died. Why bother the rabbi any longer?" Ignoring what they had said, Yeshua told the synagogue official, "Don't be afraid. Just keep trusting." He let no one follow him except Kiva, Yaakov, and Yohanan, Yaakov's brother. When they were come to the synagogue official's house, he found a great commotion, with people weeping and wailing loudly. On entering, he said to them, "Why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead, she just sleeps." And they cheered at him. But he put them all outside, took the child's father and mother and those with him, and went in there where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talita Kumi," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." At once the girl got up and began walking around. She was 12 years old. Everybody was utterly amazed. He gave them strict orders to say nothing about this to anyone, and told them to give her something to eat. Chapter 6. Then Yeshua left and went to his house. Then Yeshua left and went to his hometown, and his Talmudim followed him. On Shabbat, he started to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astounded. They asked, "Where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom he has been given? What are those miracles worked through him? Isn't he just the captain, the son of Miriam, the brother of Yaakov and Yossi and Yehuda and Shimon? Aren't his sisters with us?" And they took offense at him. But Yeshua said to them, "The only place people don't respect the prophet is in his own town, among his own relatives, and in his own house." So he could do no miracles there. The other than lay his hands on a few sick and heal the people. He was amazed at their lack of trust. I want to point out something I learned this past week. It says, so he could do no miracles there. Who did the writers think he is? He is Yeshua. He is the Son of God. Why couldn't he do if he wanted to? He would not do any miracles there except a few, because people didn't believe in him. People didn't trust him, and they make fun at him. So he would not do any miracles. Here it says that he could not do miracles. Yes, he can do the miracles, but he wouldn't do them because of their unbelief. So let's pick up where we left off. Verse 6, and he was amazed at their lack of trust. Then he went through the surrounding towns and religious teaching. 7. Yeshua summoned the 12 and started sending them out in pairs, giving them authority over the unclean spirits. He instructed them, take nothing for your trip except a walking stick, no bread, no pack, no money in your belt. Wear shoes, but do not an extra shirt. Whenever you enter a house, stay there until you leave the place. And if the people of the same place will not welcome you, and they will refuse to hear you, then, as you leave, shake off the dust of your feet as a warning to them. So they set out and preached that people should turn from sin to God. They expelled many demons, and they anointed many sick people with oil and healed them. Meanwhile, King Herod heard about this, for Yeshua's reputation had spread. Some were saying, Yohanan the Immerser has been raised from the dead, as is why these miracle powers are at work in him. Others said, it is Eliyahu, and still others, he is a prophet, like one of the old prophets. But when Herod heard about it, he said, Yohanan, whom I have beheaded, has been raised. For Herod had sent and had Yohanan beheaded and chained in prison because of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip. Herod had married her, but Yohanan had told him, it violates the Torah for you to marry your brother's wife. So Herodias had a grudge against him and wanted him put to death. But this she could not accomplish because Herod stood in awe of Yohanan and protected him, for he knew that he was a tzaddik, a holy man. Whenever he heard him, he became deeply disturbed, yet he liked to listen to him. 21. Finally, the opportunity came. Herod had a banquet on his birthday for his nobles and officers and the leading men of Galilee. The daughter of Herod came in and danced, and she pleased Herod and his guests. The king said to the girl, ask me for whatever you want, I will give it to you. And he made a vow to her. Whatever you ask me, I will give you, up to the half of my kingdom. So she went out and said to her mother, what should I ask for? She said, the head of Yohanan the Immerser. At once the daughter hurried back to the king and announced her request. I want you to give me, right now, on the platter, the head of Yohanan the Immerser. Herod was appalled, but out of regard for the oath he had sworn before the dinner guests, he had not wanted to break his word to her. So the king immediately sent a soldier from his personal guard with the order to bring Yohanan's head to the soldier. The soldier went and beheaded Yohanan in the prison, brought the head on a platter, and gave it to the girl. And the girl gave it to her mother. When Yohanan Talmudim heard of it, they came and took the body and laid it in the grave. 30. Those who had been sent out rejoined Yeshua and reported to him all they had done and taught. There were even so many people coming and going that they couldn't even take time to eat. So he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves into a place where we can be alone." And seeing them leave and recognizing them, ran ahead on foot from all the towns and got there first. When Yeshua came ashore, he saw a huge crowd filled with compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. He began teaching them many things. At this time, the hour was late. The Talmudim came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's getting late. Send the people away so that they can go and buy food for themselves and on the farms and towns around here." But he answered them, "Give them something to eat yourselves." They replied, "We are to go and spend thousands on bread and give it to them to eat?" He asked them, "How many loaves do you have?" "Go and check." When they had found out, they said, five and 2 fish. Then he ordered all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. They sat down in groups of 5 or 100. Then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up toward heaven, made a barakah. Next, he broke up the loaves and began giving them to the Talmudim to distribute. He also divided up the 2 fishes among them all. They all ate as much as they wanted, and they took up 12 baskets full of the broken pieces of fish. Those who ate the loaves numbered 5,000 men. Immediately Yeshua and his Talmudim got in the boat and go on ahead of him. Immediately Yeshua had his Talmudim get in the boat and go ahead of him toward the other side of the lake, toward BeritHadasah. While he sent the crowds away, after he had left them, he went into the hills to pray. When night came and the boat was out on the lake, and he was by himself on land, he saw that they were having difficulty rowing because the wind was against them. So at around 4 o'clock in the morning, he came toward them, walking on the lake. He meant to come alongside them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought it was a ghost and let out a shriek, for they had all seen him and were terrified. However, he spoke to them. "Courage," he said. "It is I. Stop being afraid." He got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased. They were completely astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves. On the contrary, their heart had been made stone-like. After they had made their crossing, they landed in Nosah and anchored. As soon as they got out of the boat, the people recognized him and began running around throughout the whole region and bringing sick people on their stretchers at any place where they heard he was. Wherever he went, in towns, cities, or countries, they laid the sick in the marketplace. They begged him to let them touch even the tzitzis of his robe, and all who touched it were healed. This concludes the reading of chapters 5 and 6 in Mark. Let's see. Chapter 7. Yeah. So, may Yah be with you. May he shine his light upon you. May he lead you into his truth and righteousness and fill you with his shalom. In Yeshua. Yeshua's name, amen. Until next week, BeritHadasah, shalom.